What's up, sports fans, and welcome to the Sports Opinions Podcast. I am your host, as always, Alex Cuesta. Find me on Twitter at @_Cuesta30, and find Sports Opinions on Twitter at SportsOpinion30. As always, if you're listening to this, thank you first of all. Definitely go make sure to go and subscribe to us on Spreaker.com, iTunes, Google Play Music, and also YouTube. Yep, we're still there. We're still doing our thing. This week is a action-packed week. It's for the week of May 2nd through May 8th. And I mentioned last week that I'm going to be covering some college stuff, and I'm going to be homering a little for Marist. And this past weekend was the MAAC meet for outdoor track and field. So I'm going to start off the week with a little bit of college, talking about the successes of our Marist Track and Field men and women. And were there plenty? We're going to get going into it right away. I'm going to talk about the women first. The Marist Track and Field women competed at the MAAC Championships for outdoor track and field, and they ended up coming in 6th place. Now, while that doesn't seem like it's a great accomplishment, mind you, we don't have a track facility of our own. We used to have an indoor facility where we can train some people with field, with doing shot, disc. They had a pit where we could set up our jumping stuff. They took that away as well. So we have very little areas to train, so we really don't have true area to train. Our only field person right now is Fallon Quigley, and she's on her way out with the high jump. She gave us 4 great years. She's a record holder, so that's something we're going to take with us. But keeping it in perspective, 6th place against now a packed MAAC with both Quinnipiac and Monmouth making their way into the MAAC to go along with the Ryder, Manhattan, all the other groups that were there competing against us. 6th place, 46 points, just competing on the track is great. So I'm going to highlight some of the athletes that did well for both the men and women, and we're going to, again, starting with the women. In the 400-meter dash, Denisha Craig, senior, graduating, last hurrah, did a masterful job. Competing in the preliminaries, she ran a 57.94, and that was good enough to get her into the finals, where she placed 3rd place, running a 57.85. Ending off an amazing career, 8 records in the books that she holds, combining with relays and individuals, indoor and outdoor. Just an unbelievable athlete, one of the greatest ambassadors we ever had at Marist Track and Field. Thank you for everything, Denisha. In the 800 meter, we had Shea Bohan, who ran spectacular. She's a junior. We have her again for another year, which is so friggin' exciting. In the preliminary, she ran a 2:15.85, good enough to get her into the final, which she improved upon that time, running a PR again, running a 2:15.54, good enough for a scoring spot in 7th place. She's only going to grow, only going to get better, so we're excited to see what she could do next year, especially under the training and tutelage of head coach Chuck Williams, who I've had on the podcast before. He will be on again at some point, hopefully soon, and I'm pumped for that. On to the 1,500-meter run. We had 3 good performances that got into the finals. Emily Burns, Denise Groen, and Maria Smith. Emily Burns ran a 4:39.34 in preliminaries. Denise ran 4:37.68, and Maria Smith ran 4:40.25. In the finals, we only had Emily score. She ran 4:35.35, which is fantastic. And she's another person. I believe we get her back next year as well, which is exciting. But Denise and Maria are both young. They're coming back next year. Denise ran a 4:37.69, good enough for 9th place. And Maria ran 4:43.51, good enough for 12th. Definitely going to see both of those women back next year running and for years to come, competing hard. And, just being the great athletes they are, again, under Chuck. I'm going to save the 400-meter hurdles for last because amazing. You'll find out why. The 3K steeplechase, stumbled over my words here. Junior Jordan Casey placed with a 10:54.31, good enough for 6th place. And right behind her was Alyssa Lefave with 10:59.42 for 7th place. So those are 2 more scoring. Those are always final on time. There is no preliminaries. Another race that's final on time, the 5K. Haley Collins came in 5th place running 17:12.78, and Gianna Tedeschi came in 7th place running 17:19.41. Again, 2 spectacular athletes that we're going to see back again. Just you could see the build that Coach Chuck has. A lot of these women are returning. The only one that's leaving so far is Denisha Craig that we've heard, and we're constantly building. The sprints are still strong under Coach Terry Horton as well. So there's not much to be feared. Speaking of sprints, the 4x1 took fourth place, comprised of Lauren Adams, Debbie Burke, Denisha Craig, and Grace Cepeda. Again, there's two athletes leaving in that one, Lauren Adams and Denisha Craig, who are going to dearly be missed. But we will pick up the slack like we always do every year. The 4x8 took fifth place, running a 9:15 flat. That was comprised of Kerry Gay, who ran a 2:17.7, Jenna Robinson, 2:15.5, Emily Burns, 2:20.5, and Denise Groen, 2:21. A lot of those women returning again, and we just continue to rebuild on the middle distance. 4x4 I left out intentionally because it had a big breakthrough, record-setting race for the Marist women Red Foxes, the runners. The overall time was 3:57.67, good enough for a new school record. The school record was held by Courtney Cartwright, Denisha Craig, Molly Weeks, and Jen Horner. The new ones that came in and broke the record were Grace Cepeda, who ran a 61.4 split, Debbie Burke running a 57.9, Denisha Craig 57.7, and Shay Bohan 60.3. Again, new school record. And again, the only athlete leaving out of those is a big hit, but it's Denisha. And that means we're returning 3 out of those 4, which is exciting. We just need to find another piece. Shay Bohan came back. She's not typically a 400-meter runner, but she came back to anchor this 4x4, and what a job she did. She's just a tough girl, tough woman who always gives it her all, and that's just the whole makeup of the team. But the highlight of the women, sorry to take away from any other women, but the highlight for me of the women was in the 400-meter hurdles. Debbie Burke, probably one of the most gifted athletes to ever come through our program, is really starting to show it. Breakthrough junior year in the hurdles. In preliminary, she was the top qualifier, running a 62.02. And she continued that and proved why she was the top qualifier, because she came back and is now the MAAC champion in the 400-meter hurdles. She ran a 61.25, resetting her old record of 61.70. And we're just super excited that she had such a great race. She ended up resetting her school record. She's officially a MAAC champion. She'll be back next year to defend that MAAC championship. And we can't say enough about what she's already done for our program. And I'm personally excited to see what more she's going to do. So that's the women. We're going to go on to the men. The men had a miraculous 5th place finish. And they're, the team that doesn't really get the highlights. The women will get a lot of the accolades and everything. But the men always seem to come up and surprise everyone. And again, Monmouth coming into the fray for the men has made it more difficult to make breakthrough. The fact that we don't have any field athletes, no throwers, no jumpers for the men really hurts our program. And hopefully one day we can get a track of our own so we can start building, getting more sprinters on scholarship and getting some of these field athletes on scholarship. But we're here to focus on the men that did compete. Starting off in the 800 meter, a guy who I knew had it in him. He's a spectacular runner. And we have him again for another year. Drew Burns ran a 152.64 in the preliminary. That's an IC4A qualifier in the prelim round. Come back the next day, followed it up with a 153.73 in the finals. Good enough for 6th place. And that's in a race that had Dylan Capwell from Monmouth, who's a national competitor, who ran a 150 flat. And it's just a great thing to see. And there's no reason why Drew Burns can't get to that level next year. The guy works hard, tough kid, and he can easily get there and be competing for a championship next year. Next race, 400-meter hurdles. Again, the women did it. Debbie had a great race. Sean Patterson had a great race for the men. He's been hanging around the 57 mark in meets. He was really kind of not too happy. He had 2 breakout races this meet. Great way. He's a senior. This is the final hurrah for him. He was a transfer athlete that didn't have a lot of time to train with the team when he first transferred. Now that he's training officially with the team, he's getting the workouts from Terry. He's really made a difference. He ran a 55.28 in the prelims and then came back in the finals and ran a 55.19. Good enough for 4th, and that really shows that we're keeping up with that tradition that we built at Marist between Hakeem Cunningham a few years ago, Joe Cafaro last year, that we just continue to get these 400-meter hurdlers that can really compete in the MAAC, and we're hoping that someone else we can grab. Once Sean leaves, we're going to have someone step up to that plate. But it's real exciting, and it's great for Sean. In the 3,000-meter steeplechase, Matthew Ronan came out in the event, ran, and it's once we get into the higher distances, Iona exists, and they're one of the best teams in the country every single year in terms of distance. And to have guys break in and score at these distances is unbelievable. Matthew Ronan ran a 9:43.59, good enough for 7th place. Just fantastic again for anyone to break into these distance events. And senior captain ended off his career right in the 5K, Dietrich Moselle. Obviously, he wanted to have a PR, but in these races, they're just so tough. He broke up that vaunted Iona pack, running a 14:41.6, good enough for 4th place. Thank you for everything you have done, Deet. You have a place in history as one of the best distance runners in Marist history, and that's something you should be proud of. For the relays, our 4x1, we got the baton around. We good enough for 6th place, 45.35. That team was comprised of Santos Kishnan, Josh Hindle, Sean Patterson, and Cole. I'm going to screw up your last name, Cole. Lakazik. Sorry, Cole, if you're listening. I have no idea how to say your last name. But they got it around, scoring place. That's the important part at these meets. In the 4x4, we had some really good performances. Again, some middle distance guys dropping down to help out. But they took a 5th place, 3:25.59. That's a season best. Cole Ziskind ran a 51.7. Josh Hindle split 50.9. Drew Burns came back and is a beast, split 50.5. And Tanner Senius anchored with the 52.1. Again, a lot of middle distance guys on that team. Josh being a senior, it's, sad to see Josh go. He's a kid that I started coaching. Great kid, great athlete. And it's just exciting to see him have a good race and finish off the right way. For the 4x8, this was another nice shock. Good surprise. We know we have great middle distance runners, but taking second wasn't expected, I don't think. We ended up taking 2nd place, 7:42.75 overall time. Senior Steve Rizzo ran a 1:56.6, really running well. Proud of you, Steve. Stephen Morrison came out, ran a 1:53.9, probably a little disappointed from his open race because he knows he's talented enough to be up there with Drew placing, but came back, ran a great leg there. Connor St. Germain ran a 1:57.5, and the always steady Brian Henderson anchored with a 1:54.5. You noticed Drew Burns is missing from there. He ran the 4x4, and this team still took 2nd place without our guy who placed in the Open 800. That just shows the depth and the quality that is there for the middle distance guys. Proud of all you guys. Those were all the scores and the big performances. There were a lot of PRs this weekend that I didn't mention, but it's just, I'm proud to be a former coach, proud to be a former athlete, and it goes without mentioning that we had a lot of great qualifiers throughout the year. Our big meet after our MAAC conference meet is the IC4A ECAC, which is coming up this upcoming weekend. Just going to run down the qualifiers, and it's a big deal because we've been on a goal. The goal for winter was to pack the bus, to take a bus instead of a van. We're going to do it again. I talked to Pete, and I think he said it's 11 on the men's side, 11 on the women's side qualifying, which is unbelievable. Qualifiers are, I'm going to start the women. Emily Burns and Denise Groen in the 1500, Maria Smith and Gianna Tedeschi in the 3K, Jordan Casey in the steeple, Haley Collins in the 5K. Also, you have, in the 400-meter hurdles, Debbie Burke, and the women's 4x8. And on the men's side, you have Drew Burns in the 800, Dietrich Moselle, Spencer Johnson, Chris Rivas, and Mike Kennedy in the 10K. And then the men's 4x8, which a lot of the names you just heard from the MAAC meet will probably comprise both of those 4x8 teams. So it's just really exciting from that track and field perspective. And as a coach, former coach, I'm kind of beaming for what my athletes did and how well they competed. Again, this is my preach that I give whenever I talk about Marist Track and Field. We don't have a track. We don't have, we have to travel. Thank you, Vassar College. Thank you, New Paltz, University of New Paltz, for letting us use your indoor facility. Vassar for always being generous, letting us use the outdoor facility. But we're a Division I program. We compete. We work our asses off to be competitive at the, D1 level and in our conference. And we're really pigeonholed by the fact that we don't have a track. Our sprinters can't train properly. We can't really recruit field people. It's something that would benefit the whole school, every single sports program. So if you're someone listening that has the ability to help out Marist Track and Field to get a track, please do reach out, donate, do something. So we're going to go on to pro sports now. We're going to talk about MLB, Major League Baseball. And when I think it was the first episode, I brought up a tale of two teams in one city. And then it was the Mets and their hot start and the Yankees and their slow start. Flip the script. The Yankees are now the hot team. They're playing like people thought they would, and I'm not going to jump for joy because it is May. It's an early season. We're 35 games in. But the Yankees had a clean sweep this week. They went 6-0 on the week. They've taken 16 of their last 17, and they've beaten some really good teams. This is a stretch where people thought that they were going to struggle and they were going to possibly lose a good amount of these games. No, they've had some sweeps. They lost one game to Houston in their series, but came back this past week. They beat Houston twice. Severino Tanaka pitching masterfully. Severino with the complete game, 10 strikeouts. Then Cleveland they completely swept, which is a team with a great pitching staff and a playoff team. And they just started the series with Boston last night, and they got a nice win. Luis Severino going again. Domingo Germán with his first start pitched a no-hitter through 6 innings and then was taken out. Ended up getting a no decision, but a win there. Sonny Gray has had 2 straight good starts. CC Sabathia is just CC, reinventing himself. Masahiro Tanaka going 6 innings strong, pitching well. So the pitching staff is coming around. The bullpen is sometimes still a little shaky, but the pitching staff is really coming around. Giancarlo Stanton, while still struggling with strikeouts, is starting to hit home runs. He had 2 last night against the Boston Red Sox. Saw Miguel Andujar get his first game-winning RBI with a game-winning single in Cleveland with a 7-6 win. Gleyber Torres, the big vaunted youngster, getting a walk-off home run. First of his career, make a 7-4 victory late in that game against Cleveland. So the Yankees are doing a lot of good things. Only news to really come out of it is CC Sabathia said he's likely to retire if the Yankees win the championship this season, which is big news. Yankees would be sad to see him go. But if they end up winning a championship, which again, it's really far down the road, he said he would lace it up. So as I hope we win, I also want to see CC pitch some more with how well he's done. So kind of selfish part of me wants us to win, and also selfish part of me wants CC to just come back. So Yankees sitting at 25-10, 6-0 on the week. Hopefully they continue it for the upcoming week. And they've just been playing really good ball. On to the other team of New York. And I call them the other team right now because they're playing like the other team. The Mets got off to such a great start. And they hit a little bit of a snide last week. They were 1 game under 500. I think they were 2-3 last week. It wasn't a huge deal. It's become a big deal. It's early in the year. Mickey Callaway needs to get things under control because the team is slipping. And they need to figure out what the hell's going on. And they need to do it quick. They were 1-6 this week. They've fallen to 18-16 in a division where the Nationals have been weaker than normal. And they really need to pick it up. Jacob deGrom has given good starts, but the team hasn't been able to hit behind him. Jason Vargas seems to be like he's just a mistake right now. He's not pitching well, and that's really hurting the staff. Zach Wheeler has had some decent starts, but again, the hitting has failed him. Steven Matz had a decent start, hitting. No one hit for him. He didn't get a run. Noah Syndergaard hasn't been himself, but still good enough in terms of starting pitching. They're not helping him. It's really tough. Asdrubal Cabrera's having a career year. He's not getting the help from everyone else. Cespedes has seemed to cool down. Conforto's not hitting. Jay Bruce has cooled down a little. They have a lot of things they need to do. There was a scare in Jacob deGrom's last start. He seemed to have hurt his elbow, but all the testing came back negative, so he seems to be ready to go for the start this weekend against the Phillies. Todd Frazier sent to the 10-day DL with the hamstring injury that he suffered. Got to monitor that because that's a real tough one. But overall, there's a sense where the team was just floundering and hurting now for the past 2 weeks. And one of the reasons maybe you could put the blame on was Matt Harvey being awful out of the pen. Well, good news, Mets fans. Don't have to worry about Matt Harvey anymore. As of yesterday, Matt Harvey was traded to the team that they are currently playing, the Reds, which is absolutely hilarious that they traded him to the Reds. But he was traded for catcher Devin Masorako, who, is someone that they're in need for a catcher. Hopefully Masorako can call a game. He can pitch well. Can hit well, and he could be an answer for the Mets. Now, I didn't go over the schedules real quick. The Yankees, in the upcoming week, they see Boston 2 more times. They see the A's 3 times, and then they have one game on Tuesday the 15th against the Nationals, which should be a fun game to watch. Even though Nationals are hurting right now, they're still a good team. For the Mets, they are, as we speak, in the 3rd inning playing the Cincinnati Reds. They see the Phillies 3 times, which the Phillies are a better team than people thought. They might whoop the Mets' ass. And they see the Toronto Blue Jays one time, who could still hit the baseball. So the Mets could be in trouble, but trading away a cancer like Matt Harvey, who didn't seem to give a shit, is a good sign for them. On to Major League Soccer. The New York Red Bulls, NYCFC, they had the New York Derby, and NYCFC has owned the Red Bulls recently in the Derby. Not so fast this time. The Red Bulls blanked NYCFC. They stopped David Villa, who has been a beast in the MLS. They beat them at a score of 4-0. They handled them. That moves the Red Bulls to 5-3-0, 15 points. That drops NYCFC to 6-2-2, 20 points. Goal scorers for the Red Bulls were Alejandro Romero Gamara. He has 3 on the year. Florian Velo, which was a weird goal, bounced off defender and went in, but he'll take it. He has 3 on the year. Bradley Wright Phillips got a goal, 6th on the year. And Derek Etienne has a goal, 2nd one on the year. News for the Red Bulls coming out. Head coach Jesse March is on a short list for the U.S. men's national team job, and he's also been getting his international license and possibly looking to jump ship to another one of the Red Bull affiliates internationally, so we'll see. Keep a close eye on that. Upcoming for the Red Bulls, they play the Colorado Rapids on the 12th. And for NYCFC, obviously they got blanked, but head coach Patrick Vieira continues to get linked to other teams. If you recall, last week I said he was one of the frontrunners for the Arsenal vacancy. Well, he's also been linked to Everton. So both coaches on both teams are seeming to use these current teams as a stepping stone, and that's a problem with the MLS currently. They're still a stepping stone league. There needs to be a time soon where they stop being that league. Upcoming for NYCFC, they play LAFC on the 13th, which is this Sunday, and hopefully they can get off the snide and beat one of their rivals, I guess, since they're both new FC teams. They're the second team in each of their cities. Hopefully they can develop a nice little rivalry. I'd like to see it, and I'd like to see NYCFC get a victory. NFL, pro football, New York Giants. Oh, New York Giants. Eric Flowers wasn't at the voluntary workouts, and the reason being, which is pretty funny, Landon Collins was on the radio, and he told them that Eric Flowers got his feelings hurt because they picked up Nate Solder, and that's why he's not at voluntary workouts. And Eric Flowers, that's why they declined your 5th-year option. That's why they're trying to trade you, and that's why you probably don't have a future in the NFL. No room for emotions here, especially linemen. Linemen are the tough guys. No room for emotions. You're not a diva, and you're not very good at what you do. So instead of being sad about them picking up an all-pro left tackle, maybe you should get in the friggin' room and learn from the guy. But that's not in your ego. Sorry. Speaking of guys with egos, but seems to have checked it a good amount. Owner John Mara was asked about Odell Beckham Jr.'s contract and how he feels about him being at the voluntary OTAs. He was happy to see him at the OTAs. I think everyone is happy to see him healthy. And they said they're not in a rush to extend his contract, and I get that for the Giants. There was a major injury he served. If he starts becoming injury prone, you don't want to extend the guy, as talented as he may be, if he becomes injury prone. It's a good approach by the Giants, but if he comes out and he has a good first half of the year, extend the man. And if he's healthy, extend the man, because he's an all-pro, once-in-a-lifetime type of talent. Speaking of OBJ, he created his own personal logo at Nike, like all signature athletes that are superstars eventually get. I really like it. It's a script style logo. It has the O and the B. The B's kind of inside the O, and the right half of the O creates a J. Really cool looking. I'm excited to see it pop up places on his signature shoes and things like that. And it'll probably get signature apparel, like dry fit type of stuff. It's a nice looking logo. It's a clean looking logo. I think it's one of the nicer ones Nike has put out. Excited for that. And other news for the Giants. Former Giants wide receiver, former NFL wide receiver at this point. He didn't play last year. Victor Cruz, asked by TMZ about his future. He said he would love to play for any team. He's probably looking to come back. Specifically pointed out that he would love to come back to the Giants. Don't know if the Giants need him at this point. They have OBJ, they have Ingram, they have Shepard on the other side. They have young guys in Lewis and Tavares King, which I talked about with Billy Hill on past episode. So I don't know if they really need Victor Cruz. And it's sad because he was great for the Giants when he was here, but they really might not have a need for the guy. New York Jets time. Robbie Anderson is an idiot. He didn't show up for his arraignment. There was a time where there was a warrant out for his arrest last week. I guess someone in his people got in touch with the police. They gave him a new date. All he faces is misdemeanor reckless driving charges, which sucks. I doubt he's going to get any jail time. He probably has some good lawyers. Jets are probably working with him to get him their best people. Probably just going to be a fine. Dude, show the hell up. Put this behind you. Take your inevitable suspension from the league. Because if you weren't going to get one before, you're sure as hell going to get one now, because that makes the league look stupid when you do dumb stuff like that. Take what's coming to you. Come back. Play whatever 12, 10 games you're going to play this year. Have another good year. Help this team. Stop being selfish and stupid. Other news, the Jets released quarterback Bryce Petty. It's expected the Dolphins picked him up off waivers. Teddy Bridgewater continues to be a topic for the Jets. The team's unsure if he'll be ready for OTAs. If he's not ready for OTAs, Christian Hackenberg's going to stay, and they're going to get rid of Teddy. They only owe him $500,000 a signing bonus. Everything else of his $6 million is incentives. Jets were smart with that. But if he's not ready, don't care about the potential. No reason to keep him. Speaking of Christian Hackenberg, it was news that he changed his throwing motion. When asked about it, Todd Bowles said he had no idea. It's kind of funny because he really doesn't care about a guy who has nothing to do with the Jets' future, which I get it. Also, the team came out and said that they knew, but he worked with his own personal coach, said he's trying to fix his throwing motion. We'll see when it comes to training camp. He's going to be out there throwing, especially if Teddy can't go full. They're probably going to carry 3 quarterbacks. That's the norm. People were talking about them just carrying 2 with just Josh McCown and Sam Darnold. I don't like that plan. I'd rather see them carry another quarterback, someone who's, again, been in the playbook. Could probably be someone else in Sam Darnold's ear to help him out with certain reads and things like that. So I like the idea of keeping 3. Last for the Jets, interim owner Chris Johnson asked about Sam Darnold, said that he thinks that Sam Darnold's a turning point in Jets history and that he'll be looked back as one of the greatest picks the Jets ever had. Hope he's right. Hope it's true. Hope Sam Darnold can bring the Jets some Super Bowls. That would be really nice. Chris Johnson definitely doesn't have a lot of Woody in him. He's a little more brash, a little more out there, but I kind of like it, and I like the confidence his owners are really exuding. But I hope it doesn't backfire. I hope the Jets don't stink, and he doesn't have to answer a lot of questions like that. Buffalo Bills, slow week in the Buffalo Bills news. They're expected to hire former Panthers linebacker and Seahawks director of pro personnel Dan Morgan to the front office, and Bruce Arians, former NFL coach, great coach. He says Josh Allen has unbelievable potential. I was a Josh Allen fan. I think that he gets a lot of knocks for his accuracy when working with guys who probably barely made it out of high school to go play college. You see some of these receivers' hands, they were awful. But I see the potential as well. I tend to agree with Bruce Arians, and Bills fans, I hope he's there because the Bills Mafia can stop setting themselves on fire because they're going to be watching terrible football unless he does something well. Professional basketball, 2 teams that have been out of it for a long time, hopefully going to get back into it. Starting off, New York Knicks. David Fizdale hired as the new head coach. I've been on the record talking about Fizdale and saying he's a great hire. He's a great hire. Knicks fans are going to be happy. And it's just going to be some more about Fizdale. He talked about in his press conference, he said he loves Emmanuel Mudiay, which is funny considering Emmanuel Mudiay is probably the worst of the point guards between Frank, Mudiay, and Trey Burke. So it's interesting he points out Mudiay. I wonder what that means for Burke and Ntilikina. We'll see what the future is there. Also, Joakim Noah has been in touch with Fizdale since he's been hired, and the team said he possibly has interest in coming back. Don't know why the hell the Knicks would do this, but the GM, Scott Perry, said that he is interested in talking to Noah and all possibilities. I really just think the dude gets released. He has no business being on the Knicks or probably being in the NBA anymore. He's slow. He doesn't have as much a touch. His defense isn't as good. Also, Clyde Frazier, former Knick great, doesn't think Kristaps Porzingis will play at all this year. Tough news for the Knicks, but might end up working in their favor. Again, tank, pick another guy that's great. Pick up Marvin Bagley. Come on, do something right. Try and get up there for him. And, whoever's coming out next year, stink for that dude. And get KP some more help. It won't hurt. Last but not least on the Knicks, Enes Kanter. Interestingly enough, trying to recruit LeBron James to the Knicks. On a tweet, he he made a video and quoted, "Prove that you're the king of New York. See you in June." Pointed out that it's kind of funny that in order for LeBron to come to New York, Enes Kanter would have to opt out, and that means he wouldn't be on the team anymore. So he's recruiting a guy for the team that he's currently on, but would have to leave the team in order to get him there. Kind of funny. I guess he's super loyal to the Knicks in that way, but you might want to be, kind of watch out what you wish for, Enes. Nets, Brooklyn Nets, slow news on Brooklyn Nets. Not really much to talk about because they have their front office intact. They have their head coaches intact, so they're not as exciting as the Knicks. Well, the big thing is Bleacher Report named the Knicks the 6th best free agent destination. God, I don't think any Nets fans thought they would have seen that in their lifetime, considering the debacle that Billy King did with the trade, and we're finally picking up the pieces. The rebuild seems to be working. Kenny Atkinson is a player-friendly coach. People want to play for him. The players are developing. I think other players are seeing that. And, 6th best free agent destination, going to have more guys probably sign offer sheets during restricted free agency, so we'll see. And the next small bit of Nets tidbit, they signed on to stay with the Fan for their radio broadcast through 2021. Last but not least, National Hockey League, NHL. Rangers, really their news is coaching news. Former Stanley Cup champion coach Dan Bylsma is not a candidate for the job. The Boston U coach David Quinn takes himself out of the search, so I don't know if the Rangers liked him or not. But that's the big coaching news there. They're still looking for a coach. And another news, they signed forward Ville Miskanen, which is one day after they signed Lindqvist, which is another forward. Both of these guys look to be fourth liners, but who knows the talent they could bring. So we'll see there what that turns out. Devils had some pretty big news that came out. Three of their key players had surgery. Starting off with their biggest player, Taylor Hall, had surgery on April 30th to repair torn ligaments in a hand that he suffered in late December. So the guy went through on his tear that he was the best player in hockey after tearing his hand in half, a ligament. He's expected to be ready for camp. That's just miraculous news. Patrick Maroon also had surgery on May 2nd on a herniated disc in his back. He's expected to be ready for camp. And Corey Schneider had hip surgery, which really could be damning for a goalie. He's doubtful to be ready for camp, and that might be one of the main reasons why the Devils keep Keith Kincaid, who's having a fantastic USA Hockey right now, stint. He's pitched 2 shutouts so far, looking like the guy that came on for Corey Schneider, and not like the guy that lost his job to Corey Schneider in the playoffs. So hopefully Kincaid can build off of this, and if Schneider's not ready to go, Kincaid can pick up the slack. And in small news for the Devils, they re-signed defenseman Brian Strait to a 2-way contract to float between the NHL and AHL. He just kind of serves as depth. For the New York Islanders, only news is sad news, unfortunately, for the Islander fans. Former general manager Bill Torrey dies at the age of 83. Nicknamed the Architect, he built the teams that won 4 Stanley Cups. Young kids, if you're listening to this, if you don't know, the Islanders are one of the best teams in hockey at one point. 4 Stanley Cups in a small period of time in the 80s. Just a great GM. Sad to see him go. Remembered by a lot of people just in hockey as one of the greatest hockey minds. So rest in peace, Bill Torrey. And on to the Buffalo Sabres. No real news, Buffalo. Again, it's off-season hockey. The Buffalo Sabres, they re-signed defenseman Casey Nelson. That's not huge news. He's a good, decent defenseman for the Sabres. They're looking to build. And that's really the news for New York this week. This was your weekly New York sports update on the Sports Opinions podcast for the week of May 2nd through May 8th. I'm your host again, Alex Cuesta. Find me on Twitter at @A_Cuesta30. Find Sports Opinions on Twitter at SportsOpinion30. If you're listening either through Spreaker.com, iTunes, Google Play Music, or YouTube. Thank you for listening. I love the fact that you are listening. Click subscribe if you haven't yet. And beat credits for the intro and outro. Intro beat by David Cuesta. Find him on Twitter at dcuesta308. Find Joe Hackett for the outro beat on Twitter at joehack_. Again, thank you for listening. This has been Alex Cuesta. Have a good one.